Hi guys, welcome to 13 July daily newspaper session. Today we have about 20 topics to cover. The first one is judiciary. So here we have four separate points. The first is Supreme Court direction that bail can be stayed only in rare cases. So bail is norm and jail is the exception. So bail can be stayed only in rare cases, including PMLA. So normally we see that when it is PMLA, when it is Enforcement Directorate using this law, bail is not very easy, but Supreme Court is now saying that even in PMLA, bail should be stayed only in rare cases. Then, with regards to the Delhi Chief Minister stepping down, the court said that they cannot order a sitting chief ministers to step down. So there is no law which mandates that if a chief minister is in jail, then he cannot continue, right? So this thing can be asked in exam. Then also, you need to realize that although the Delhi chief minister got bail in the ED case, but because he was also prosecuted by CBI for the same offense under a different law. So CBI prosecuted under Prevention of Corruption Act, I guess, and ED prosecuted under PMLA for the same offense. So bail got was approved in the PMLA case, but it was not valid for the CBI case. So the lesson here is if one gets bail in one case, it does not automatically mean that all the other parallel cases also, even if they are about similar offense, still they will remain valid. So bail in one case will only be applicable to that particular case. It will not be applicable to the other parallel similar cases, right? So this is very important fact which can be asked by UPSC. Then you have conditions of bail. So there is no law which mandates specific conditions for different kinds of bail. Now it depends on the situation. In what situation, what the conditions will be set by the court. Those will be decided based on the situations at that time. So there is no specific law which mandates, that only XYZ conditions can be put for XYZ kind of bail. So you just need to know that conditions of bail are decided by the judge. Then, Enforcement Directorate, of course, ED cannot make arrests under PMLA on a whim. So, if one is getting arrested by ED and then getting bail is very difficult, this we already know. It is also being said that ED and PMLA is being used for political vendetta. So, the court has now declared that ED cannot make arrests on a whim. They need to have solid ground and they need to give it in writing, and basically they need to prove the objectivity of their decision to arrest somebody. So this broad outline also, if you can remember, you'll be able to solve whatever UPSC gives in exam. Then floods, we are already seeing. Um, you have this river called Trishuli. Now, this is a river in Nepal. This is also getting flooded, and the importance of this river is that it's a tributary of Gandak River. Gandak is also known as Narayani River. So, if Narayani is given or Gandak is given, it's the same river basically. And Trishuli is a tributary of Gandak in India, also known as Narayani, and it joins the Gandak at Devghat. All right. Then there was an article about teacher recruitment to EMRS. The full form is given here, Eklavya Model Residential School. So these are residential schools. You need to remember, it's very important. These are residential schools and they are for tribal children. So these are under basically the recruitment until now was done by the states under the guidance of MOTA. So these schools are under MOTA, Ministry of Tribal Affairs. There are about 400 such schools in India and their recruitment is centralized. Now it is centralized basically since the 2023 budget. So before that, till the 2023 budget, this was being done by the states. The teachers were being recruited by the states themselves, but now it has been centralized. And the budget basically established this body nests. The full form is given here, National Education Society for Tribal Students, and this body now is responsible for the recruitment. National Testing Agency does the test. Also, Hindi, basic Hindi competency has been made compulsory, and this competency is compulsory not just for the Eklavya schools but also for Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya and the Kendriya Vidyalayas. Then Kaziranga yesterday also it was in news, worst flood in a decade. So UPSC can say that basically the flooding situation has improved or things have bettered. Basically, they have become better in terms of infrastructure and the impact of the flood. So it's actually worst flood that has happened in a decade. National Highway 715. Now this is more important. This is what can be asked. National Highway 715 touches Kaziranga, and so there is wildlife this thing also, like the traffic hits wildlife and animals are dying because of this. Karbi Anglong hills are close by. Then you have women force, special force, which is Special Rhino Protection Force. It is also known as Van Durga. Okay. The next is election. So about election, just one point is there. The 2024 general elections had a turnout of about 66%. Now, this was lower than 2019, but nevertheless, it was the third largest ever turnout in any Lok Sabha election so far, right? So this you need to remember. It's not the largest, it's not the second largest, but it's the third largest turnout. Then PDS also was in news. So NFSA, you need to remember, National Food Security Act. The year is 2014. You need to remember this year. Now, the percentage of population is important. So 75% of rural and 50% of urban population is getting subsidized food grains. Okay, it's not for free that they are getting, but it's subsidized food grains. UPSC can say these are free food grains. Then you have this survey recently, which was in news even before prelims. This survey was in news. So household consumption expenditure survey, and so what all things are included in this survey can be asked in exam. So this survey includes information on food and non-food items which are received by households for free by the government. Different schemes are there under which free food and non-food items are received by households. So it's about, the survey is about these things. Then NSSO has conducted this survey, and it's not a very precise estimate. So it's not a very detailed or a very precise survey. It gives you broad trends basically, right? So you need to remember it's not very precise. Then it does not have, X means it does not have, okay? It does not have data on insurance, education, and health. Now this is very, very important. UPSC can say, it can maybe frame a multi-statement question. It can give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items and can say out of these how many, information on how many of these is given by the recent HCES 2022-23, right? So education, insurance, health, things like these are not covered by this survey. Separate detailed surveys on these are conducted by NSSO. Then again, China was in news. So the northwestern province of Xinjiang houses Uyghur Muslims, and these are minorities, and it is said that these are being persecuted by China. Then you have net direct tax collection. Now, this is just factual, very important. Nevertheless, so the growth has slowed. Okay, growth has slowed. It doesn't mean that tax collections have reduced. It has increased. Growth is there, but the rate with which it was growing in the previous year, it has slowed this year. Then, out of the total net direct tax collections, about 60% is coming from personal income tax. So, this is the maximum share. Then, you have about 37-40% coming from corporate tax and securities. Now, securities transaction tax collections have soared. Okay, so what is the rate of increase? That is not important, but it can just say that there's a decrease in securities transaction tax, or there's a decrease in personal income tax, something like that, right? So STT, securities transaction tax, has increased in collections. Then you have refunds also, higher refunds. Naturally, if you have more collections, so more refunds only will be there. That's the most logical thing. So higher refunds also this year. And the thing is, although personal income tax contributes maximum share of the net proceeds, but of the returns, maximum share is of corporate taxpayers. So corporates are getting 80% of the total refunds which the government is making. This is what can be asked. It's counterintuitive. Then point number 10, J&K was in news. All right, so J&K Reorganization Act of 2019, you need to remember this year. Home Ministry has given more power. So it was in news because more powers have been given by the Home Ministry to the J&K LG. And these powers relate to police, public order, and all India service. And also it requires, now these things require prior concurrence of the finance department. So you need to remember this. Then the powers were given by amending the transaction of business rules, and Jammu, the UT of Jammu has an assembly while the UT of Ladakh does not have an assembly. Then also this thing of Ladakh not having assembly is important because there was this whole movement by Sonam Wangchuk of Ladakh. Like, it was very much in news in before prelims, I think April or something. Very much in news. Hunger strike was there. Thousands of people were there. So it could be asked whether Ladakh has a assembly or not. Then you have SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals were mentioned. So India is making good progress. Now it's not a very concrete report or something, but just a idea which Niti Aayog gave. That is a broad assessment which it gave. When reports come, we'll get more idea about on which parameters India has actually improved, on which all parameters we have not improved. But overall, Niti Aayog says there is good progress. Then the SDGs were launched in 2015. They were accepted in 2015 by all UN members, right? All UN members, even if it's a strong word, it's true in the case of SDGs. Then you have this species which was in news, dog shark. Now a new species of dog shark has been found in Kerala deep water. So it's a deep water species that has been found, and they belong to the family. It's not family, it's family of spur dogs. Now, this is the more common name, spur dogs. Okay, so if spur dogs is given, it doesn't really mean dogs. Just like flying fox is there, it doesn't really mean a flying fox. So dogs in this case is it's a shark basically, dog shark or spur dogs. Okay, and they are poached, they are hunted for their liver oil. Then next is all right. So we've done 12th dog sharks. Next, so sorry. Okay. Next is 13th. Now, governor was in news. So West Bengal actually has moved SC uh, to complain about governor sitting on bill. So this is politics, but you need to know that the governor does not need to give reasons for sitting on bills. Okay, so that veto, I think pocket veto it is called. The governor is not required to give reasons. So states are moving SC for that. Then you have Delhi University was in news. Now this was in the context of Manu Smriti being introduced in, I think, some course, some law course or something at undergraduate level. So the vice chancellor of the university rejected the proposal to include Manu Smriti. Now you need to remember why I included it in today's this thing is current affairs is it's not the Ministry of Education which takes, or HRD which takes this call. So the VC itself has the power. So it can be said that the ministry is taking these kind of calls. UPSC can give these kind of statements. So VC only can do these things. So just remember, it's not the ministry. Then Competition Commission of India was in news. A question has already been asked, dedicated question has been asked on Competition Commission of India. It was a two-statement question, if I'm remembering it correctly. So it started an antitrust probe against Apple. So Apple has been facing the music everywhere. EU also, European Union also was, inquiring about some malpractices. The Competition Commission of India also did a probe and it found that Apple is misusing. So it's not really important whether we found Apple guilty or not, but Competition Commission of India conducts antitrust probes. So just the functions. All right. Next is 16th index of industrial production. Manufacturing constitutes about 80% of IIP. Just remember this much. NABARD was in news, so it was about some scheme. The name of the scheme is AgriSure. Now, I did not write the full name here. That will be given in a monthly magazine, but just remember AgriSure scheme, and it's for startups, some finance scheme it is. Corpus is 750 crores, 250 crores each by the union government and NABARD, and 250 by other organizations. And this corpus is managed by wholly owned subsidiary of NABARD called NAB Venture. So it's a wholly owned subsidiary. Just remember this. Next is 18th renewable energy. So during COP26 at Glasgow of UNFCCC, India made this commitment: 500 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity by 2030 and net zero by 2070. You need to remember these years, these numbers. All right, commitments of India can be asked. Then you have renewable energy. Now, the production, the technology to produce renewable energies seems to have been matured, but now the challenge is of storing renewable energy. This year also there was one question about, I think, pumped hydro power or something. So you can see hydro pump storage. So this term was in news. So in the coming years, it's the storage of renewable energy that will be more in news. And on this topic only, you can expect questions on prelims as well as in main. So you have this term hydro pump storage given today, and you also have this term concentrated solar thermal energy stored, and this energy is stored in molten salt. All right, so you can take it as term in news, you can take it as technologies. Just remember that it's in the context of storing renewable energy. Right, so I'll just put the tag also here also just. All right. Then you have South China Sea was in news of Philippines and China again having problem in South China Sea. So just remember from mapping angle, actually, Philippines has a border with South China Sea. Then you have esports. Okay, so esports Olympics. Now, what exactly is esports? That I did not really find out right now. But just remember for now, there is something called as esports Olympics, and it's real Olympics by the International Olympics Committee, right? So IOC. And Saudi Arabia will host the first esports Olympics, which will be conducted. Right, so we'll get more information in the future about it. But for now, just remember, IOC has decided that Saudi will host the first esports Olympics. So, guys, that will be all in today's newspaper. Do let me know your feedback about how today's class was, and slowly we'll be maturing into this daily newspaper. It will take less and less time as we iron out the issues and everything smoothens. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.